My childhood sweetheart was the female lead. Yet I was the villainous supporting male. No matter how hard I tried, her eyes would always be drawn to the male lead. When she once again left me for him, I understood it was time to go. So I requested to leave this event from the system, but it informed me I had another month. The food on the table had grown cold, the warmth long gone. On the cake, the words "Happy Birthday" were written. You promised you'd celebrate every birthday with me, but you couldn't keep your promise. Lily and I were childhood sweethearts, growing up together and eventually becoming lovers. This was the first time she was absent from my birthday. Lily said she had very important matters to attend to, but I knew she had gone to see the male lead. Such things had been happening repeatedly recently. I knew I had lost the plot. Was the plot not something I could control? I silently dumped all the food into the trash, sitting alone to eat the cake. The sweetness of the cream was cloying, almost bitter. For the first time, I finished a whole large cake by myself. At 3 a.m. Lily returned. I closed my eyes, feeling her approach. She said, "I'm sorry I'm late. Something urgent came up today. Next time, I'll definitely be with you on your birthday." Next time, sadly, I no longer had time for a next birthday. I said nothing, only turning my back to her. Silence spread in the air. I clutched my aching stomach and curled up. Lily's worried voice rang out. "Ryan, what's wrong?" The doctor scolded me. "You're an adult knowing you have stomach issues, yet you eat a whole large cake in the middle of the night. What were you thinking?" Knowing I was wrong, I bowed my head, sitting silently, not refuting. There won't be a next time. I wouldn't have another chance to eat a birthday cake again. Lily helped me out of the hospital. She suddenly stopped. "Is it because I didn't celebrate your birthday with you that you ate the whole cake yourself? Why choose this way? Are you deliberately trying to make me feel bad?" "No," I replied quickly. "I told you last night was truly urgent. Why are men so petty?" I knew my tone was very calm when I replied, completely different from my previous loud, argumentative self. Lily also stared blankly at me with a strange look in her eyes. After requesting to leave this world, I was no longer controlled by the plot. Finally, I had reason not to be like a petty man arguing loudly with Lily. I looked up and Lily's eyes reflected my image, only me. But I knew in her heart there was already someone else. The male lead was Ethan. I was originally an obstacle in their love path. As Lily became increasingly unable to let go of Ethan, I also realized I seemed to have become a different person. I was easily angered, suspicious, excessively possessive, but this wasn't the original me. The plot had turned me into a strange shape. That was the life the author bestowed upon this character. The distance between Lily and me grew wider until I accidentally bumped my head and recalled that I was a villain. Supporting male in a book, only then did I gradually awaken. "Lily, I feel a bit tired. I want to go home." "Let's go home." Lily clearly breathed a sigh of relief. Lily and I had known each other since we were 3 years old, spending nearly 20 years together, the most familiar presence to each other. I thought we would be together for life, but now for the rest of the road, let each walk their own path. For 2 days I was sick at home resting. Lily was very busy with work, asking for leave in the middle of the night to stay home with me. She was always like this. If she wanted to be good to someone, she would cherish them in her palm, rushing to the point of making it hard for people to refuse. Sadly, this goodness was gradually shifting to someone else. Lily's usual personality was lively and cute, but at work, she was always strict with herself. When studying, she never brought her phone, yet now she was constantly distracted. In just half an hour, she picked up her phone no less than 5 times, and the corners of her mouth unconsciously curved into a smile. I looked at the scene before me somewhat dazed. How long had it been? How long had it been since I last saw Lily like this? Sincerely wanting to ask, the pain in my heart spread. Actually, Lily couldn't be entirely blamed. Ever since Ethan appeared, I had changed my personality, but she didn't know. We had argued countless times. Now she was still willing to stay in this house. It was already very good. I slowly surveyed the entire house, from small trinkets to large appliances. Lily and I had chosen them together. At that time, we were full of expectations for the future, using all our enthusiasm to decorate our loving nest. But who would have thought that just a few months after Ethan appeared, everything had completely changed? I could see that Lily's heart was no longer on me, so I personally pushed her out the door. Go to work, I'm fine. She looked at me with a complex gaze. I thought perhaps she still had a little bit of affection for me. There was only half a month left until the countdown of my life. My body was clearly weakening. Lily noticed something was wrong, wanting to take me to the hospital. I pointed to the cake I had eaten earlier, saying my stomach was a bit uncomfortable and that I couldn't eat anything. I'd get better slowly. She didn't say anything more. The moment she stepped out of the door, I even sensed a hint of weakness in her heart for chasing success or fame. I laughed self-mockingly. Even if she convinced herself that this was all destiny, seeing the person she loved gradually falling for someone else and being unable to do anything, the sadness in my heart almost drowned me. Time left was not much. I wanted to say goodbye to this world properly. I took cat food outside. There was a stray cat I originally wanted to adopt, but it was always weary, not wanting to be caged. So let it be. Later, there would be no chance to see it again. I wondered if it would remember me. I finally stroked it once, rambling a lot of things. The cat seemed to realize something, sitting and crouched by my feet, constantly rubbing against me, meowing worriedly. I knew cats and dogs could sense human illness. It was reminding me. But I also knew I wouldn't make it even if taken to the hospital. The doctor wouldn't find anything. Feeling the kindness of the little cat, I smiled and thanked it. I'm okay. When there were only 8 days left, I clearly felt life force gradually disappearing, strength slowly leaving my body. Coughing also began frequently, accompanied by bloody coughs. All these things I had very carefully considered. Lily's mind was completely no longer on me, going out early and returning late. Even living under the same roof, we hadn't seen each other for a long time. Occasionally, I wondered if she knew I was about to die. Would she abandon me like this too? Although curious, I didn't want to tell her. Before, when watching TV dramas with Lily, I always thought the characters in them were too foolish. If there was any misunderstanding, just say it. But when I experienced it myself, I understood there were words that truly couldn't be spoken. I gathered all my savings to distribute. My parents had passed away in an accident many years ago. Beside me, apart from Lily, there was only my brother Max. I went to the Bank of Capital City to close my account. The staff tried to persuade me to keep it, saying it would be troublesome to open an account later, needing many documents. I don't need it anymore. But you're still missing one document. Even if you bring it now, it's already past working hours today. It can't be resolved. Please come back tomorrow. Thinking of the little time I had left, I pleaded. Could you wait for me for another half hour? Perhaps I won't be able to come back anymore. Looking at my sickly face, he hesitated, wanting to say something but stopping. I smiled gently. I don't have long to live. Sorry for the trouble. Stepping out of the bank gate, I faintly heard a small sobbing sound behind me. It turned out to be a soft-hearted, kind girl. Unexpectedly, a stranger felt sad for me. In my heart, I quietly said thank you. Returning home, I looked at the house, almost completely cleaned up, empty and cold. In just a few days, things related to me would be cleared away. Today, Lily rarely finished work early. She seemed to suddenly notice something was wrong. Why are so many things missing in the house? I replied vaguely, I want to change to new things. It's indeed time to change. Use this card to buy them. It's the newly received bonus. Consider it spending them together. I unexpectedly asked, can you go with me? Ryan, I'm very busy. She didn't even look at me once, but I heard the dissatisfaction in her tone, as if blaming me for being so unsensible. If she could have looked up at me once, perhaps she would have seen the sadness in my eyes about to overflow. I took a deep breath and smiled faintly. Okay, I'll go myself then. Lily always said she was busy, but when I returned from the bank, I still saw her eating with E. The two were chatting. Sitting and laughing, the atmosphere is so good that no third person could intrude. I vaguely remembered we used to be like this too. She used to love going for walks in the streets, but now even time to go shopping with me was unavailable. These blunt reasons made my heart ache. So this is what it's like to not be loved. Every small detail reminded me that Lily no longer loved me. I covered my mouth, coughing violently. Lily frowned, looking at me. I silently crumpled the tissues stained with blood, clutching it tightly in my hand. Why are you coughing again? Did you secretly smoke again? She uncomfortably blamed. Or secretly drink again? I shook my head. No, I always listened to Lily. I knew she did that because she wanted good for me. I had quit smoking and drinking long ago. Only occasionally, when pressure was too much, would I touch them a little. She clearly knew that, but now she didn't even want to believe me anymore. Seeing I was okay, she turned and left. Lily, I grabbed her hand, full of hesitation. Suppose one day I'm no longer here, would you be sad? No. She looked at me with indifferent eyes. Ryan, you're a grown man. Don't use such childish tricks. Do you think we're playing hide and seek? When Lily was little, she clung to me always like a little tail following behind me. Once we played hide and seek. I hid in a tree and accidentally fell asleep. Lily was so scared she started crying. Her heart-wrenching cries made everyone rush over to see. I was scolded by both our parents. Lily cried until her eyes were swollen and red, wiping her tears while shielding me. Don't hit him. Then she turned to hug me tightly. Ryan, don't abandon me, okay? I'll be good. I won't cry anymore. Later, no matter what happens, don't abandon me. Okay? I used my eyes to gaze at Lily's eyebrows and eyes. She always loved to smile like her. Why is she frowning now? Does she still remember how afraid she was of losing me back then? I think perhaps she no longer remembers. Is her memory so bad she forgot how much she used to love me, and would also forget all the things I did to make her hate me so much? I understand. I nodded so she wouldn't be sad. A stranger could even shed tears for me. Not sad was also good. How could the female lead be sad for a hateful supporting character? Looking at Lily's back, I whispered a sentence. Goodbye, Lily. Lily was going on a business trip abroad for half a month. I secretly found her assistant who had arranged her itinerary. On the day she departed, I didn't go to the airport to see her off. I only stood at the door, handing her luggage. Goodbye, Lily. Lily looked at me deeply. Her eyes held a complexity I couldn't decipher. In the end, she didn't say anything, turned her head and walked away. Only when I saw the car gradually moving away did I release my tightly clenched fist. I couldn't help but chuckle dryly. I almost thought Lily had noticed something unusual. I tidied up the luggage, looking around this house, the place Lily and I had decorated bit by bit. The sadness in my heart seemed about to overflow. Lo, now only the last step was missing. I called the smart assistant, Aura. Erase Ryan's fingerprints. Yes, master, Ryan's fingerprints had been erased. I dragged the suitcase and left. The sky was gloomy, looking like it was about to rain. A cold gust of wind blew, making me break out in goosebumps. I habitually reached out to hold Lily's hand, but just turning my head, I suddenly remembered Lily had gone on a business trip. It seemed my body was getting weaker by the day. Even my memory was gradually not so good. I smiled wryly. Even if she hadn't gone on a business trip, Lily wouldn't let me hold her hand anymore. Due to her constitution from childhood, her limbs were always cold, especially in winter. It was even more uncomfortable, and I was the opposite, like a small heater. I couldn't bear her pitiful look. Every time she looked at me with those eyes, I always indulged her, letting her put her hand into my coat pocket to get some warmth. The person who once said they wanted me to warm her hands for a lifetime perhaps was now holding someone else's hand. I finally looked back at this place one last time, the place I had lived for many years, then turned and left. When moving in here it was spring. Now it was early winter. From 2 people, now only 1 person. I returned to the small apartment I bought myself. There were 6 days left until the deadline. I checked the chat. My brother Max had sent many messages. Bro, did you win the lottery? Surely you didn't send it to the wrong person. That model I've been craving for so long, and the puzzle said you gave them to me. Don't tease me, I'm really poor. If you won the lottery, share a bit with your brother. I realized recently I was increasingly able to lie even without changing expression. Max was a carefree person, not noticing anything unusual about me. He was excited for a long while, then asked, "Are you and Lily okay? You're a man. You should be tolerant of her." "It's okay. Girlfriends need to be pampered to be cute." I stopped typing, then slowly replied, "We're okay." "That's good then, right? Lily likes you like that anyway." I guess that was right too. Young couples often argue and make up. Just coax her more and it'll be fine. I unconsciously felt my heart ache. Everyone knew how much Lily used to like me. The one who said like first was the one who let go first. This moment I felt lucky. Luckily, Max was busy abroad, not coming back. If he saw me become so petty and bitter because of this love story, he would definitely find me scary and strange, perhaps regret being friends with me. But anyway, I would still make him angry. Max's personality, knowing I lied, would definitely find me to fight, but this time I couldn't fight with him anymore. Ending the chat with Max, a message from Moo popped up. I had bought a bunch of small gifts, then went to a charity center nearby. In university, I used to volunteer often, coming here to help, but after graduation being too busy, I asked someone else to send things for me. Long time no see, the director smiled. Kindly, then worriedly I asked, why are you so thin? Did something happen? I shook my head lightly, replying, it's nothing, just haven't been able to eat much lately. Where are the kids? I want to go see them. We distributed the gifts we bought to everyone. I pushed open the door to a room in the corner. Sam, as expected, was sitting quietly drawing. Even when distributing gifts, the boy didn't come out, as if the world around him didn't exist. In his eyes, there was only the drawing pen in his hand. I placed the gift on the table. He didn't say a word, only sitting on the chair beside him, watching him wield the pen. Sam suffered from autism, almost never speaking, only immersed in his own world. The only thing he loved was drawing. The first time I volunteered, he was the first child I was in charge of. Initially, he was very resistant to my approach. Later, he gradually allowed me to sit beside him when he drew, and then we became attached like this. This was the special way of communication between us. In the quiet room, only the sound of pencil and paper rubbing against each other rustled. You won't come anymore, will you? Sam unexpectedly spoke. His dark, firm eyes looked at me. Over the years, this was the first time Sam had proactively spoken to me. I nervously tightened my hands, looking into those clear eyes. My throat seemed stuffed with cotton, unable to speak a word. I could lie to Lily and others, but not to Sam. I know you won't come anymore. When my mom left me, it was the same. She bought me a lot of new clothes and snacks. Seeing I didn't speak, he continued talking to himself. My heart ached, stroking his head. I'm sorry. Are you and Sister Lily getting married? Sam asked again. My movements froze. You know Lily visits me every month. She buys me snacks and leaves a secret for you. Sam finished speaking, pulled out a painting from the drawer, and handed it to me. The drawing style was clearly Sam's, but in the corner of the painting were a few lines of writing. Ryan, when will you marry me? Actually, I don't need a house that's too big nor a car that's too good. Don't push yourself too hard. Just as long as we work hard together, we'll have everything. I wonder when you'll discover this secret. The handwriting was Lily's. I looked at those crooked lines, unable to stop my eyes from tearing. Leaving the Hope Charity Center, I wandered aimlessly, holding the painting Sam gave me, saying it was a farewell gift. Looking at the trash can by the roadside, many times I wanted to tear those words and throw them away, but in the end I still couldn't bear to. I stopped, looked up around, and unexpectedly, I had unconsciously walked near Central High. Without thinking, I stepped into a restaurant nearby. Years had passed. This place was now much older, but the number of students coming to eat was still as many as in the old days. Lily, from a wealthy family, had been pampered and cherished since childhood. In her senior year internship, the first time she received her salary, even if it was only a few thousand, Lily was very excited, dragging me to this newly opened restaurant, excitedly saying, "Order whatever you want, Ryan. I can earn money myself now. I can take care of myself. You don't need to be under so much pressure anymore." She had said that back then. I ordered the special dish that was very popular at that time. "Sorry, sir, this dish is no longer served," the waiter said, taking out the menu. "Other special dishes are also very delicious." I suddenly blanked out. It turned out time had truly passed for so long. I stood up, intending to leave, but was called back by the restaurant manager. "Are you Ryan?" I blankly nodded. "This is for you," the restaurant manager said, taking out an envelope that had turned yellow from somewhere and handing it to me. I hesitated, not daring to receive it. Back then, when the restaurant just opened, we held an event to write letters to our future selves in 3 years. The restaurant manager seemed nostalgic. Initially, we planned to send these postcards to you guys after 3 years, but a few days ago, Miss Lily came looking, gave me your photo, and instructed that if I saw you, I should give this postcard to you. I remembered now. Back then, there was indeed such an event. Lily, with her lively personality, loved trying new and interesting things, and was extremely enthusiastic about experiencing romantic things with me that couples often do. So this event, of course, she wouldn't miss. I opened the envelope. On the postcard, there was only one sentence. Ryan of 3 years later, hello? Have I become Mrs. Ryan yet? It was Lily writing. At that time, we were in the passionate phase of our relationship. After writing, she insisted on exchanging postcards with me, saying that in 3 years we would read together to see what the other had written. On the back of the postcard was the other half of the sentence. If not yet, then I will wait for you more. Turned out we used to love each other so deeply. The recent arguments and cold wars had made me almost forget how much we had once wanted to be together. I took out my phone, deleting line by line the chat log from our university days. As I deleted, I tried to hold back tears. Those feelings from back then, a part had been saved through those words. The more I scrolled up, the more I saw how much she loved me. But now she no longer loved me. Those oaths of eternal love from the past, now when reread, each line felt like a knife stabbing into my heart, painful to the point of breathlessness. I clutched my aching chest, walking forward. This time I stood in front of the gate of my old high school. Lily and I were classmates since childhood, even sitting at the same desk throughout both middle school and high school. We both studied at Central High. I blankly stared at the familiar school before me. It was also here that I first realized I liked Lily. Afterwards, by a stroke of chance, we confessed our feelings. We studied together while hiding our budding youthful emotions, but the joy in our eyes, how could it be hidden? Even a casual word from the other party would. Person helped me. My body's reaction reminded me I didn't have much time left, counting only 3 days. Luckily, the things I wanted to do were almost done. Finally, I returned to the old residential quarter from before, the place I first met Lily. The weather was getting colder by the day. I looked up. Perhaps the first snow of this year was about to fall. In the quarter, there weren't many people, only a few walking dogs and a few children playing. I stared intently at the slide in the corner of the yard. 2 children were fighting over the slide, arguing about who would play first. The scene before me pulled me back to the old days when little Lily and I were also like this, always competing for everything. Everything must see who was better than who. Children's feelings were very clear. Love and hate were all expressed on their faces. When young Lily and I really didn't get along, who knew we would become a couple later? Sometimes fate was truly strange like this. I slowly walked. Just a few short steps made me pant. Just walking like this, suddenly I bumped into something. Someone bumped hard into me. I staggered, almost falling to the ground. That person didn't even bother to say sorry. I frowned, intending to say a few words, but discovered that person was rushing straight towards the 2 children. Not good, it was a kidnapper. He acted very quickly, grabbing one child and intending to run away. Unexpectedly, he was grabbed by the other child, holding tightly onto his leg, not letting go. I didn't know where the strength came from. I rushed over and slammed hard into the kidnapper. He fell to the ground, his hand squeezed my neck. Run! I tried to shout, seeing the child had escaped. The kidnapper angrily punched me hard, then stood up, intending to chase after. I tightly held onto his hand, not letting him go. The commotion had attracted many people's attention. Many people started coming out to see what was happening. Seeing he couldn't escape, the kidnapper suddenly pulled out a knife from somewhere and stabbed hard into me. Ryan! I heard that heart-wrenching scream, engulfed by panic. Screams and noise constantly rang in my ears. I lay on the cold ground, as if no longer hearing any sound around me, only seeing the haggard face before me. You should be on a business trip abroad. Why are you here? Lily took off her coat, wrapping it around me, calling for an ambulance. Ryan, look at me, don't fall asleep. Why is this happening? It's not right, not right. She sobbed, crying her heart out. Why is it not right? I looked up at her in confusion. It seemed recently not only my vitality but my brain was also gradually slowing down. Lily wanted to hug me tightly but was afraid of hurting me. I felt something cold on my face, It turned out to be her tears. The person who always loved to smile like her. Why was she crying to the point of heartbreak like this? I couldn't help but feel pain. She truly knew how to control my emotions. I clearly knew I couldn't bear seeing her cry. Lily, you little L. Didn't she say she wouldn't be sad? The sky was still a gloomy gray. They were waiting for the ambulance and I was waiting for death. I knew even if I went to the hospital I wouldn't survive. For the last time I was able to meet Lily again. I had no more regrets. Anyway, the person before me was the person I had loved throughout my youth. Snow began to fall lightly. This was the first snow of this year. Unexpectedly, before leaving, I could still watch the snow with Lily again. Every year we would watch the first snow together. This time it was the last time watching the first snow and also bidding farewell to me. Lily and I had experienced so much together but couldn't walk together to the end of life. Perhaps there was a time when she truly thought about the future with me. Snow fell heavier and heavier. I trembled, reaching out my hand to catch a snowflake on my palm. My eyelids began to feel heavy. Ryan, don't fall asleep, I beg you. Lily helplessly hugged me, crying uncontrollably. I tried to open my eyes, using my last bit of strength to wipe away her tears. Little girl, your smile is still prettier when you're smiling. Lily tightly held my hand, trying to keep me warm, but it was no longer effective. Lily's soft sobbing filled the air. Ryan, I beg you, wake up. Look at me. I felt my body beginning to feel light, also getting further and further away from Lily. I floated, suspended in midair, seeing Lily hugging me, weeping in pain, blood staining the ground red. The falling snowflakes were also tinged with fresh red. I didn't know how long I had floated. Finally, I felt myself touching the ground. When I opened my eyes again, I saw a room full of people. Ryan, you're awake. My mom, who was closest to me, couldn't help but hug me tightly. I slowly reached out my hand, hugging her back. My throat was dry and unbearable. Looking at the gray hair at both temples of my mom, I couldn't hold back tears from falling in torrents. How could I forget? I still had a loving family waiting for me. I thought I would be taken by the small system to another world. Unexpectedly, I was brought back to the original world. The moment I returned to this original body, I remembered everything. It turned out before I had drowned, although rescued, I still fell into a vegetative state, unable to wake up. At that time in my head, suddenly appeared the voice of the small system. It said that as long as I completed the villainous supporting male task, I could wake up again. Thinking of my loving parents and my brother, who nagged but always cared for me, I couldn't bear them being sad because of me. So, I didn't hesitate to agree with the small system. I was taken to Lily's world. When I first arrived, I still remembered my origins, but later, not knowing why, I gradually forgot those things. In the daily interactions, I unconsciously began to love Lily. Luckily, we were on the same wavelength, spending sweet times together until the character Ethan appeared. I became sensitive and easily irritable. Gradually, I no longer recognized myself. Between Lily and me, the relationship deteriorated rapidly. Arguments and cold wars became commonplace. I tried to seek the truth behind it all. Lily perhaps would betray me, but I knew clearly that wasn't my true self. After an argument with Lily, I accidentally bumped my head and remembered the small system. At this time, I understood everything was due to the plot driving things to become like this. Knowing the truth, I was extremely pained. Perhaps in the real world, I only lay on the hospital bed for a few years, but in Lily's world I had family, real friends, and had lived for over 20 years. I tried to change the plot, but all failed. The relationship between Lily and me grew further and further apart. The truth reminded me not to expect to change the plot with one person's strength. After all, I was just a supporting character. Moreover, a villainous and unreasonable supporting character. Being abandoned was the outcome the author had arranged for me. When Lily once again abandoned me for Ethan, I knew I couldn't continue to be blindly in love anymore. It was time to leave. I softly asked the small system why it brought me back. I had requested to leave the mission ahead of time. I thought the small system would force me to continue doing a new mission or suffer punishment. Unexpectedly, not only was I brought back to the old world, but I also woke up. The small system didn't answer my question. Not knowing anything is also a good thing. Leaving that sentence, the small system disappeared. I suddenly felt like I had just experienced a dream, but the pain in my heart was very real. Not wanting to worry my family, I had everything. This story was too unbelievable. Every day, I persistently went for re-examination and exercise. Now, walking was no longer an issue. Life returned to normal. Only at night, occasionally, I still thought about Lily. The beautiful memories from the past always constantly appeared in my head. Once, I even accidentally mentioned it in front of my brother. He teased, "Are you in love? One day, bring her home for me to meet. Let me see what girl can make my dry brother like you become like this." I laughed. "No, just old things." He snorted, "Really? That day you hugged her, I even saw that scene." This time he was silent, not saying anything more. Time passed very quickly. In a flash, my brother was about to get married. Decorating the wedding room, I was forced to do the task of inflating balloons. Initially, everyone worked very enthusiastically. But when my hands began to feel sore, I discovered no one was around anymore. Turned out only I was here working. Being annoyed, the sound of balloons popping rang out. It turned out beside me there was still someone unlucky like me. Immediately, I felt my psychological balance greatly improved. Speaking of this person, I also knew her. It was Snow, my brother's university classmate, also a friend of the bride. This time being a bridesmaid, before when I came looking for my brother, we had eaten a few meals together. When the balloon was accidentally popped, now panicked, looking like a child who had just made a mistake, she glanced at her silly appearance. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. This laughter broke the awkwardness between us. The two sat together again to inflate balloons, the atmosphere quite harmonious. After the wedding, I discovered I frequently met Snow. Before, I didn't feel she was around so much, but now it seemed no matter what I did, I would meet her. As time passed, I began to realize something. Snow was pursuing me. My brother, of course, had also noticed. This time, he finally had the appearance of a brother, even specially finding me to talk. "What do you think of Snow? Tell the truth." After some time interacting, I really felt Snow was very nice. I was quite taciturn, but Snow didn't dislike me for being boring. She always tried to create a conversational atmosphere. Gradually, I could also chat with her a little. When the two began to become closer, the affection in her eyes couldn't be hidden, both hesitant and bold. Even though she was pursuing me, she didn't make me feel uncomfortable. The relationship between us progressed gradually. Now it could be said we were in an ambiguous stage. My brother wanted to say something but hesitated, finally awkwardly asking, "Have you forgotten Lily yet?" "Lily? Who is Lily?" I blankly looked at my brother. He snorted, immediately showing a complex look in his eyes, then waved his hand. Never mind, never mind. I just wanted to say if you still like someone else, don't bother Snow. Just let her be." Feeling relieved, I returned to my room, still feeling confused, trying to think of the people around me. Apart from a respected senior, there was no one else. Moreover, I and that senior had only met a few times. Surely it wasn't that he thought I had feelings for that senior. I didn't know what he was thinking. Young and already skilled, the temperature dropped, the weather getting colder by the day. I wrapped my coat tightly, going to meet Snow. "Why so mysterious? Where are you taking me?" Snow was lively, always having many interesting ideas. Being with her, I never felt bored. Seeing me, she immediately put her hands into my chest to quickly warm my hands. "They're freezing." Her hands were ice cold. I only knew to let her warm her hands against my chest. Finally, I tightly held her hand, her face flushed red. Snow led me to a riverside bistro. The bistro was booked out, only a musician playing soft music. In the cold winter, roses were blooming brilliantly, creating a special beauty. I turned to look at Snow, the always bold person, now rarely blushing. She hesitated, fumbling. I put a finger to her lips. Her eyes filled with questions and expectation. I pulled out a rose from beside me, holding it out in front of her. "Snow, I like you. Can you agree to be with me?" "No need to worry. From young, I've had a rather introverted personality, liking quietness compared to other guys. I'm completely not like a boyfriend and don't know how to make girls happy. But no matter what, things like confessing should still let me take the initiative." At this moment outside, it suddenly snowed. I looked up, watching the snowflakes falling gently, holding Snow's hand, walking into the beast. Snow was falling outside, settling on our faces, cold and freezing. The feeling of cold made my heart involuntarily ache. "What's wrong?" Uncomfortable seeing me, I put my hand on my chest. Snow's worry was clear on her face. I shook my head. It's nothing. In just a few short minutes, the ground was covered with a thin layer of snow. Hair and coats of both Snow and me were also full of white snow. I took Snow's hand and gently kissed the back of her hand. Snow, the meaning of the first snowfall is to accompany. Till white hair extra story. Lily's perspective regarding Ryan. I really liked a boy named Ryan. Ryan seemed to always have many strange ideas in his head. I took his toys, but he didn't get angry. Instead, he looked at me smiling. The way he looked at me was like I was a small kitten. I couldn't bear that look, so I always wanted to provoke him. Ryan perhaps thought I was still young, so he often told me strange stories. But he forgot that I was only young, not stupid at all. Ryan said he came here because of his system. As long as he completed the task, he could go home, return to his original home. At that time, I didn't really understand the meaning of these words, but in my heart, I also understood that Ryan would leave. At that time, the concept of separation for me was still very vague. I only felt my heart was a bit heavy. Ryan always liked to sit alone thinking. I once asked him what he was thinking. He always replied that he was thinking about home, missing his parents, missing his brother and friends. My and Ryan's homes were neighbors. I knew his home didn't have a brother, so he was talking about another home. I really liked Ryan. I liked him from the first time I met him. I gave all my toys to him, asking him to take me home to his home. Ryan sadly shook his head. I can't take you away. Moreover, I also don't know when I can return. I was also very sad. When I was 5 years old, Ryan was in a car accident. He was not seriously injured, but his head was bumped. When he woke up, Ryan became more lively than before. No longer like before, always yielding toys to me. He even fought for toys with me, though in the end, he still yielded to me but had become a bit naughty. Even so, Ryan had long stopped telling me old stories. I asked him, "Now you don't want to go home? Don't you miss your brother anymore?" He was surprised, asking me back, "Brother? What brother?" Ryan had lost his memory. I was a little sad, unable to hear him tell old stories anymore. But in my heart I felt happy. This way he wouldn't leave me anymore. After the university entrance exam, Ryan and I got together. Finally, I had pursued the person I liked. Ryan's personality was quiet, and mine was the opposite. I thought he would really hate my noisy personality. Unexpectedly, we secretly liked each other. The moment Ryan agreed, I felt my heart had stopped beating. How could someone with just a simple sentence make my heart flutter like this every day? I wondered when Ryan would marry me. I took him everywhere, experiencing the things couples often do, not wanting to feel regret later when reminiscing. But it seemed he always disliked me being too showy, occasionally even his ears turning red, telling me not to be so flashy anymore. That embarrassed look made my heart thump. That was the feeling of fluttering in my heart. I wished I could announce to the whole world that Ryan was mine alone. We went to school together, entered society together, and decorated our own loving nest together. I thought we would always be happy like this, but then Ethan appeared. Ryan seemed to have a very bad impression of Ethan. It was okay if he didn't like him. Then I wouldn't interact with him. But even so, Ryan still began to change, becoming incomprehensible. Even if I didn't do anything, he still looked at me with suspicious eyes. We began to argue, then entered a cold war. Honestly speaking, in my heart I felt very pained. For over 20 years, no one understood Ryan better than me. He was taciturn with a quiet personality, but the goodness he gave me was genuine. I knew Ryan wasn't intentional. I tried to take him for examination, but he was very resistant. When I was still having a headache, Ethan came looking for me. After talking with Ethan, I was both shocked and pained. Things like system transmigration I was no stranger to. Ryan had told me before about losing his memory. I always remembered the things he said. I knew he always wanted to return home. That was Ryan's longtime dream. In his world, there were still parents and loved ones waiting for him. How could I selfishly let him abandon his family for me? If one day he regained his memory, would he blame me for hindering him or fall into a dilemma of advancing or retreating? That was what I never wanted to see. I really liked Ryan. Sorry for my selfishness. I understood very clearly that the person I loved always and only had Ryan. I tried to let him be able to stay peacefully in my world, but now I unintentionally said hurtful words. He also used cold, strange eyes to look at me. The distance between us grew wider and wider. His eyes were always full of disappointment, and I was pained like being cut by a knife. I proactively sought out Ethan, agreeing to his request. Ethan also didn't want to be controlled. We together acted out a play, pretending to follow the plot. I only hoped this way could help Ryan return to his home. This matter had no perfect way on both sides. I didn't know if what I was doing was right, but it was the best way I could think of before we completely parted ways. That was the only thing I could do for him. I had never dared to think I would proactively say harsh words to Ryan. The look of him trying to suppress pain, the disappointment in his eyes. I saw them all clearly. I liked him so much, but now I had to pretend to be indifferent. The person I loved in the end was hurt the deepest by me. Finally, one day, Ryan seemed to have given up on me, and his eyes revealed clear sadness, beginning to slowly erase traces. Ryan always thought I was heartless, so he didn't notice, but he didn't know how much I loved him. Everything related to him I remembered very clearly in my heart. Finally, the house became empty. My heart was also hollowed out. Nothing could fill it anymore. Ryan's body was getting weaker and weaker. I knew it was a signal that he was about to leave this world. I was so pained I couldn't sleep all night, always waiting for him to fall asleep, then secretly looking at him. The next morning I silently returned. I also didn't know how much longer I could look at him like this. Ryan began to say goodbye to this world. He arranged everything, took me to the bank to close the account, went to visit the stray cat and Sam from university, then to the house we had lived in when we were young. Step by step we returned to the place we first met. I didn't go on a business trip abroad but secretly followed Ryan's every step, seeing him gradually realize my small thoughts from back then. If it were before, I would be very happy. Finally, he knew how much I loved him. But now I had hurt him deeply. The things that once made me feel sweet now became knives stabbing into my heart. I thought seeing Ryan gradually weakening had already made me extremely pained until I saw him fall in a pool of blood for the first time. I knew what despair was. Why like this? Why did this happen? I was in pain to the point of breathlessness, only able to helplessly hug him, blood red like tearing apart my eyes. My eyes blurred, my voice trembling to the point of being inarticulate. Ryan. Ryan calmly looked at me, using his hand to wipe away my tears for the last time, then slowly closed his eyes. He left me. Since the day Ryan disappeared from my world, a year had passed. The things he sold off I had found back little by little. I restored the house as if he was still here, but my heart was empty. Nothing could fill it anymore. Now Ryan probably had returned to his world, the place with parents who loved him, with a brother who cared for him. He probably had also forgotten me already. My heart ached so much. Ryan didn't know when he regained his memory and escaped the system. I had heard everything. I knew I was the female lead of this world. I used my life to threaten the system, bringing Ryan back to his old world and erasing all his memories of me, as well as memories of this world. I had treated him so badly. This relationship, not remembering, would be better. Ryan deserved a better person than me. Another first winter of the year, snow falling lightly. People on the road hurried past. I looked up at the couple playfully frolicking together, filled with envy. My heart began to ache again. I knew I would never meet the familiar figure again. I also couldn't wait anymore for him to indulge me, letting me slip my hand into his chest to warm them. Love had faded. Only snow was falling, pure white. Ryan, can you see it?